Hey guys, welcome back. Today we're going to do the last issue of Confederate Monsters, issue number 3, created by Dave Schwartz. Yeah, it's been a while since I reviewed 1 and 2. The first one was more than 2 months ago. The second one was a month ago or ish. And now I'm going to talk about this. The reason, is it a month? Probably more, not entirely sure. Doesn't matter. The reason why I'm taking so long, because I liked the first one, then it all went down at the second one for me. And now we have here, and I was, after the second one, not invested at all anymore, and I really didn't want to talk about this comic at all. Not that it's really a bad comic, but I have some big issues with it, and I'm going to talk about it at probably the end of the video, or during the video. So stick around, and yeah, let's go. We see Igor. And he says a word, he says Lavenza, and then that wakes up Dr. Frankenstein, and he says, what took you so long? Well, it seems that he, at the last issue, I didn't look it up because I was too lazy to do it, he found out some kind of a magic word or some kind of a code or that triggers a hypnotic suggestion. And it seems that the good old doctor here has hypnotized himself, because the Confederates wants to have him creating monsters because they were losing, and the bodies needs to be transformed into, I don't know, the living undead, or probably the undead army. But Victor Frankenstein says, no, hell no, and he was having a certain hypnotic suggestion putting on himself, so he went nuts or something like that. But in the meantime, or in the inside, he was fully aware, but he put a hypnotic block on himself, so he could not tell the secrets of the undead, or was not willing or was able to. So, and Victor, now here, or I'm going to see Igor, figured that out and canceled that trigger. Well, that's a hell of a coincidence, because, for instance, if Igor didn't know that Victor was here, or that Igor, didn't know that Victor was here, figuring that out, he still was that in the loony bin, going crazy and couldn't get out because, well, he put that hypnotic spell on himself. Yeah, that's a very cool plan, not really. We also see, I'm coming back to this page later, I hope I'm not forgetting. So he tells the story about how he found out how to hypnotize himself. And then he found this guy, and I don't know where, but the guy found him. He trained him into the arts of hypnotism. And then also he has some fun, and he's practicing. And then he also, did a task for this, well, he's not really a charlatan, but this guy here looks evil. And he says, Victor says, I'm a man who would do anything to acquire knowledge and power. And that's what it takes to manipulate the mind. And this guy's very pleased with that. So, okay, so they give, you scratch my back, I scratch yours thing. So he hypnotized himself, and then he says, it was imperative. Is that how you say it? Imperative? My most dangerous secrets never fell into the wrong hands. In a safe, not even I couldn't lock. But then this guy says, well, glad you have found your way back. Now we're going to put you to good use. So in the end, it was all for naught. Ha 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 ha. Sucks to be you, man. So they are doing the whole experimentation thing, and they are, Igor and Dr. Frankenstein working together because so that Confederate evil guy killed his fiancée or his wife and cut her up. And now they're using her body to reassemble, all right? And they're going to do some experimentations. And I must say, the art looks cool at some points. I'm not entirely. Let's say the art looks cool. It's nice. It's nice to look at. It's just the colors that is, overly brown and drab, except for the couple of greens here and there and some red. But it's very muted, and the colors are all the same. And I noticed that in the other books too. It's just not very pleasant to look at for me, because personally, I'm not a big fan of the color brown. I mean, I don't hate it, but if you're gonna use it all the time, it's just I don't know. Anyway, so they're gonna experiment, and this is gonna be the bride of Frankenstein. We all know how it works. And then it didn't happen. Nothing happened, and he said it didn't work. And the doctor says, "Be patient, my boys." And she's woken up, and she's gone crazy. And he says, "You get her. I'll get the release valve." So that happens, and he says, "Hang on, darling, I'm coming." And then she's grabbing him because, well, she's a crazy monster now, and she's losing her mind because, of course, he was dead. And he says, "What have I done?" And then we're going to move on a little bit. So the evil guy here, this Confederate captain, I guess, she says, "Well done, gentlemen, well done indeed." Because he says, "Well done. You see how they come back. You can control an army of lunatics," says Igor and Frankenstein. And he says, "Don't you remember what I told you when you first arrived? I just need to point them in the right direction." Now, I was a little bit surprised when Dr. Frankenstein said that, because he created... can I show it? No, probably not. He created the original monster of Frankenstein, so he should have known that this would have happened, right? Because his first project went nuts also. I mean, it's in the movies and in the books from, was it Mary Shelley, or not sure who wrote it anymore. But then Igor says, "You disgust me, General. I'm glad to be sooner rid of you." "Sooner than you think, Doctor." Yeah, okay. That's a foreboding, because we know what's going to happen, or probably going to happen. She says, "Hey, don't lose hope," says Frankenstein to Daniel, who is Igor, and he took the name Daniel. And he said, you call a stark raving mad an acceptable life for anyone?" He says, "No, but sometimes it all one has." And then we see a shadow of something. Well, if you have a little bit of a brain, you already know what that means. I mean, it's not an insult to you as a viewer, but more like it's a little bit on the nose, if you know what I mean. And not that I'm against it, but it's been also on the covers. So yeah, the writer David gives a lot away from the covers, but in the end, we still don't see nothing. And that's the whole theme for this whole book. There's a lot of talking, there's a lot of exposition, and we also say here that this guy says, "Hey, doctor, can you make it work? Can you replicate the process?" "Yes, I do. I believe I do. I do believe I can, sir." Let's pray. And it says, "Let us prepare the mad doctor's one final experiment." Okay, cool. That's the end of the book. It's 21 pages. The thing that I really like is this. I mean, you can pause the video. It says that this guy, General Nahum Bedford Forrest, was a real life guy, and he did some despicable things during that time century. So the writer and the creator says, Dave Schwartz says, "It was important to me that nearly every character in Confederate Monsters have a dark side. However, Nathan Bedford Forrest was truly a living monster." I like that. You know, that's some nice historical here and there. So what is the problem that I have with this comic? Well, it's a lot. So I got this. So this is issue 1, right? I reviewed that. I'm going to leave the link in the descriptions, or you can check my channel. And we have issue 2. So from one, okay, this is a 40-page comic, 40 pages, right? This is a 20 pages. This is a 20-ish pages, 20 pages, right? So in total, 80 pages. 80 pages of story. The problem is, after 80 pages, let's say I had hoped, before I go into that particular part, I had hoped that we see something. And with something, I mean maybe the Frankenstein monster. Maybe some, I don't know, a monster, or someone turning into a monster and then ripping people's heads off, ripping them to shreds, killing them. I mean, we have 80 pages of talking and talking and talking and talking, exposition, surprise, covering secrets, stuff like that, reconnecting, whatever. But there's no action in it. I mean, maybe, just maybe, Dave Schwartz really wants to tell this particular story. But the problem is, this comic is from 2021. I received this months ago, and there is no Confederate Monsters issue 4 or 5 or 6 or whatever on Indiegogo right now. And I don't know when it's coming. And since it's been, well, if you do an Indiegogo campaign, you go in and you do a 30 days campaign, that's a month. Then you go in demand, and then you let it sit and fester. Well, fester is not the right word. Sit there so that people can back the comic after that 30 days. And then at some point, you close the campaign and you go into print, right? That could take a couple of months, could take a half year, could take a year. It depends on how much money you want to get for printing this comic. Then you have to wait for the prints and to inspect it, and then when it all has been good, you're going to send it out to the backers. That takes another couple of weeks, and if you are going to, let's say, my country or to doing international, it can take a couple of months. So overall, maybe 9 months to a year. Let's make it a little bit broad. So if there is a Confederate Monster 4 or 5 or 6 coming out, that's going to be in 2023. I don't mind waiting for cool looking books or cool books that I'm mostly interested in. And to be honest, I'm not against the story. I think this new take on the whole, macabre monsters, zombies, werewolves, Frankenstein monster, vampires, or whatever, if that's in the book, and there's a new take on it, I think, yeah, that's cool. But we don't see any monsters. Yes, this is this, how do you say, this Bride of Frankenstein. But I think that Dave Schwartz means the real monsters are, dun, 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 yeah, the humans. They are the bigots. They are the racists. They are the real monsters because they are killing innocent people or people in war, because that's what soldiers are doing. And I don't say that's good, but that's how it is. I mean, that's war, right? People did horrible things. That's how it is, unfortunately. But but after, let's say, 80 pages, I expect some action, some monsters, some revelations. Okay, we have some revelations here, but in issue 2, there's just talking about whatever, and they found a code, and the code was to break the hypnotic cycle of Frankenstein, this Lavencia. So really, we talk about 20 pages about, hey, the biggest reveal is cracking a code so that Victor Frankenstein can be himself again. Really? And then we're going to continue, and then there's a lot of unnecessary dialogue in here. For instance, this is, okay, so he feels pity for him, and he says something like, oh, such a dreadful existence. It must have been trapped inside 2 prisons at once, because he was, entrapped inside his head. And then basically he's saying, oh man, you have a bad time. I pity you. And he says, yeah, please pity me, because I'm sad. And yeah, I could have known that you have been so miserable. That's not what he's saying, but that's how I translate it. And then he says, yeah, I was really miserable. Stop with the pity party. Why is that even necessary? I mean, you could have told us here. I said, hey, listen, this is happening. Let's move on with the story. But no, then we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5-ish story about that you are going on a quest for hypnotizing yourself. Now, why is that so important? Why is that you could not tell this whole story in 1 page, maybe 2, right? How is that important to the story? I mean, you have told us here that this is what's happening to you. Then you're going to cry about it, you both, and then you're going to tell it again about, hey, let me tell you the story. that I went to Tibet. Well, it's not Tibet, but that's how I say it. Went to Tibet and I found a shady guy because I want to unlock the mysteries of the hypnotism. And then I have found the hypnotism and I'm going to use the hypnotism on me so that I've been hypnotized so that I cannot... You know what I'm saying? You know where I'm going with this? It's just, you just hurry up with the fucking story. It's just so infuriating. I mean, there's so many good things in here, but it's been also dragged out. I mean, issue 2. Then, let's go to the covers, right? Let's ignore the Confederate Monsters thing. Then we see this cover, and we see the werewolves, and we see the Bride of Frankenstein, we see the zombie, and we see werewolves, or maybe something different, I don't know. Fish monster. Is it a fish monster? I don't know. But there's something here. Then we have here Mr. Frankenstein himself. And you remember the shadow part that I talked earlier? Well, yeah. In issue 2, we're going to figure it out that he is actually some kind of a werewolf thingy. But it's never been shown because the whole story is about talking and talking and talking and talking. I want to see some monster action, man. And I don't want to have to wait a fucking year to find out that maybe, just maybe, in issue 4, you're going to show something. Or is the revelation that you are turning into the said monster and then we have to wait for another couple of months to get the big reveal. No, that's not what I'm going to do. Just no. This is taking too long. And I'm not sure, I talked this before. Just do it in 2 volumes, 40 pages, or in a complete bundle, 80 pages. Sell it on Kickstarter or on Indiegogo, and just make something that people are invested in. But again, maybe this is the story that David wants to tell, and maybe this is not for me. That could be it. It could be it that this whole comic that I think, oh man, look at these covers, and there's monsters in here. Oh, there's a fucking werewolf. Oh, it's so cool. And then we have the Bride of Frankenstein, and then we didn't see any of, well, except for the Bride of Frankenstein. There's nothing in here that said, oh man, where is this monster? Where is this breaking out monster, ripping people to shreds, and then have some cool revelation, and maybe he's gonna hurt somebody, or I don't know. Other stuff is coming up, but no, it's just all in this bunker and talking and talking and talking and talking. And then they finally did something with this creature, with the bride, bringing her to life. And they says, yeah, okay, let's do it. And then, by the way, you have to wait to the next issue. Now, I'm done. It was a fun ride, but not really. I'm not gonna support issue 4. I want more. There's a lot of unnecessary dialogue here. The art is nice. The colors are drab. I believe that's deliberate because it sets the tone. And like I said, maybe, just maybe, this isn't for me. And that's fine. But I'm going to review this comic based on my experience. And my experience is not set in stone. Maybe you like it. Maybe you said, hey, this is exactly for me. Then said, yeah, good for you. Just back the comic. Just go ahead. But for me, no. This is not a bad comic. This is not, I'm just ragging on this comic a lot. It's not bad. It's just not what I expected. And that's probably a good title also. It's not what I expected. I expected something totally different. And that's on me. Or not, because you gave us these covers. So the expectation is there is some monsters in it. And I don't mean human monsters, but, fantasy, real monsters. Guys, thank you so much for watching. Enough of my rants. I leave it here. I'm never going to touch this comic again. That sounds a little bit overboard. But I'm not going to read it anymore. Guys, thank you so much for watching. Again, see you next time. Bye-bye.